Thelma Post, a 93-year-old widow, sat at her kitchen table, struggling to use her laptop. Her grandson, Danny, sat beside her, patiently guiding her through the steps. He pointed at the screen, showing her where to click, but Thelma found the whole process frustrating. She couldn't understand how technology worked and often felt it was too complicated for her. Despite these challenges, Thelma enjoyed spending time with Danny. Ever since she lost her husband, Teddy, 2 years ago, Danny had been a constant presence in her life. He visited often, helped with errands, and checked in on her regularly. While she appreciated his concern, she sometimes felt he worried too much about her and not enough about himself. She wanted him to focus on his own future rather than spending all his time looking after her. That evening, while watching television, Thelma's phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering. A panicked voice on the other end claimed to be Danny. He said he had been in a car accident and was now in jail. His voice sounded distressed as he begged her for help. He told her that someone else would call her with instructions on how to bail him out, and then the call abruptly ended. Moments later, the phone rang again. This time, a man with a deep voice introduced himself as someone from the police station. He explained that Danny needed $10,000 in cash for bail. He provided Thelma with an address where she needed to deliver the money and urged her to act quickly. Thelma felt overwhelmed. The amount was a lot, but the thought of Danny sitting in jail terrified her. She didn't want him to suffer any longer than necessary. Determined to help, Thelma grabbed her purse and coat. Her hands trembled as she prepared to leave, her mind racing with worry. All she could think about was getting the money and making sure Danny was safe. Thelma tried calling Danny's phone, but he didn't answer. She dialed again, hoping he would pick up, but there was still no response. A sense of unease settled over her. Wanting to be sure everything was okay, she decided to call her daughter, Gail. She listened to the phone ring and then go to voicemail. She tried again, this time calling Gail's husband, Alan, but he also didn't pick up. Feeling anxious and unsure of what else to do, Thelma went to the post office and dropped off the package, believing she was doing the right thing to help Danny. As she spoke, Gail's voice became panicked. Realizing something was wrong, she immediately tried calling Danny. At first, he didn't pick up, just as he hadn't for Thelma, but after multiple attempts, he finally answered. The whole family quickly gathered at Thelma's house. Now that she knew the truth, Thelma felt sick with regret. She had been tricked. Her hard-earned money was gone. But instead of sitting in sorrow, she wanted to do something about it. The family rushed to the post office together, hoping there was still time to stop the package from being delivered. Unfortunately, when they got there, the employees couldn't help them. Since Thelma couldn't remember the exact address she had sent it to, they had no way to track it down. Though her family wanted to stay with her and comfort her, Thelma wasn't ready to accept defeat. Hoping for help, she calls some of her old friends, but most of them have either moved away or passed away. After searching for clues, Thelma manages to find the address where she sent the package with her money. She knows she cannot go there alone, so she asks her grandson, Danny, to drive her somewhere first. She takes him to a retirement home where her old friend, Ben, lives. Ben has been reaching out to Thelma for a long time, trying to spend time with her, but she has been avoiding him ever since her husband, Teddy, passed away. When Thelma and Danny arrive, Ben is in the middle of preparing for a play at the retirement home. He is playing a role in a performance of Annie and is rehearsing with the other residents. When he sees Thelma, he is happy and surprised. She tells him everything that happened, explaining how she was tricked and lost her money. Ben listens carefully and wants to help her in any way he can. While talking, Thelma notices Ben's bright red scooter. She asks if she can take it for a spin. At first, it seems like she just wants to test it out, but as soon as she gets on, she speeds away, trying to escape the retirement home. She is determined to go to the scammer's address by herself. Ben realizes what she is doing and quickly grabs another scooter to chase after her. A wild chase begins as Ben follows Thelma through the retirement home's courtyard and out onto the street. He finally catches up to her and stops her. He tells her that he won't let her go alone and insists on joining her. Thelma hesitates for a moment, but then agrees. Together, they ride off, leaving the retirement home behind. Meanwhile, Danny, who had been waiting outside, gets worried. Thelma had promised she would only be inside for 30 minutes, but much more time has passed. He goes in to check on her and soon realizes she is gone. Panicked, he immediately calls his parents to tell them what happened. Thelma and Ben make their way to the home of their old friend, Mona. Mona has become senile over the years, and Thelma knows she won't ask too many questions. She has a plan: to borrow Mona's gun. She needs it for protection, though Ben isn't too thrilled about the idea. When they arrive, they find Mona alone, confused, and struggling to remember things. She barely recognizes them at first, but she welcomes them inside. Ben quickly steps in to keep her distracted, engaging her in a conversation about old times. Meanwhile, Thelma carefully makes her way upstairs, trying not to make any noise. The stairs are a bit steep, and she has to be extra careful not to slip. Once she reaches the top, Thelma starts looking through Mona's things and finally finds the gun. But just as she picks it up, a cockroach scurries by, startling her. She yelps and drops the gun, which fires a shot into the floor. The loud bang echoes through the house, making both Ben and Mona jump in surprise. Realizing she needs to leave before Mona gets too confused or suspicious, Thelma hurries back downstairs. She thanks Mona and gives her a warm goodbye before leaving with Ben. As they walk away, the two talk about how sad it is to see Mona in this state. She used to be so sharp and full of life, but now she hardly remembers anything. It's a harsh reminder of how time changes people. Meanwhile, Danny and his parents are back at the retirement home, speaking with two employees, Rochelle and Colin. They are trying to figure out where Thelma and Ben could have gone. Rochelle and Colin mention something concerning: Thelma had a recent episode of memory loss. This means there's a chance she might not even be fully aware of where she is or what she's doing. Just as the family starts to panic, Danny checks his phone and sees something unexpected. Thelma accidentally posted a picture of her location on Instagram. Looking at the photo, they realize she's at a gas station. Now, at least, they have a lead on where to find her. Thelma and Ben prepare to leave when Thelma spots her family pulling into the gas station. She knows they have come to take her back, but she isn't ready to give up yet. She and Ben try to hide, weaving between cars and looking for a way to escape. Unfortunately, they run into a dead end, trapped between a fence and a loading dock. Thinking quickly, Thelma takes off her lifeline bracelet and tosses it away, hoping to mislead her family by making them think she is somewhere else. A few moments later, Danny gets an alert from the bracelet, showing a new location. He and his parents immediately head in that direction, giving Thelma and Ben just enough time to slip away unnoticed. As they drive, Danny becomes frustrated and overwhelmed. He vents to his parents, Gail and Alan, admitting that he feels like a failure. He believes he can't do anything right, not even keep track of his own grandmother. On top of that, he is still dealing with the pain of his recent breakup with his girlfriend, Allie. He feels lost and unsure of his future. Gail and Alan try to comfort him, assuring him that he is not a failure and that he will figure things out in time. Later, Danny decides to call Allie. He opens up to her about his feelings, admitting how much he is struggling. Even though they are no longer together, talking to her helps him process everything. Meanwhile, Thelma and Ben find themselves in a rough part of town. The tension between them grows, and they finally get into an argument. Ben is frustrated with how Thelma has been shutting out the few people left who truly care about her. He tells her that she doesn't have to do everything alone, but Thelma refuses to listen. As they argue, Ben's scooter, which was left on the street, gets hit and crushed by a careless driver. Ben is devastated. Seeing no other choice, he decides to return to the retirement home, unwilling to continue this reckless journey. Thelma, however, is still determined. She keeps moving forward on foot, unwilling to give up on her mission. Eventually, she finds herself walking through an open field. But her strength gives out, and she trips, falling to the ground. She struggles to get up but realizes she doesn't have the energy. Defeated and exhausted, she stays there, staring up at the sky, accepting that she might not be able to do this after all. Then, just as she is about to give up, Ben returns. He refuses to let her go through this alone. He helps her up, and together, they manage to hitch a ride. As they sit in the car, Ben takes a deep breath and gives Thelma the address she has been searching for. He knows she won't stop until she sees this through, and now, he is going to help her get there. Thelma and Ben finally reach the address, only to find that it leads to a UPS store. Confused but determined, they search for the P.O. box where Thelma's package was sent. They wait nearby, hoping someone will come to claim it. After a while, a young man named Michael arrives and opens the box. He takes out the package and starts walking toward a nearby antique store. Thelma and Ben exchange a look before quietly following him. When they reach the store, Ben decides to wait outside while Thelma goes in, phone in hand, ready to record a confession. Inside, Thelma finds Michael speaking with his grandfather, Harvey, who turns out to be the other scammer on the phone. Without hesitation, she confronts them, demanding her money back. Harvey, unfazed, smirks and tells her that the money has already been deposited into his account. He tries to charm and manipulate her, suggesting they work out a deal, but Thelma isn't having it. Michael, sensing trouble, suddenly bolts for the door. Before he can escape, Ben quickly reacts, sticking out his leg and tripping Michael. The young scammer crashes to the ground, knocking himself out. Thelma seizes the moment. She pulls out Mona's gun and points it at Harvey, forcing him to back off. Ben picks up the gun and keeps it trained on Harvey while Thelma sits at the computer, determined to transfer her money back. Knowing she doesn't have much time, she calls Danny and tells him where she is. As he races toward her, he tries to guide her through the process over the phone. Meanwhile, Michael regains consciousness and stumbles back inside. But before he can do anything, Thelma turns the tables on him. She reminds him that she overheard Harvey calling him a dumbass earlier, and she watches as Michael's expression changes. Humiliated, Michael turns against his grandfather, making it clear that he's had enough of Harvey's manipulation. Harvey, desperate, tries to justify his actions. He claims that his store is struggling, that he only wanted to keep the lights on, and that he's just an old man with an oxygen tank. Thelma listens, but she isn't swayed. She successfully transfers all of her money back, except for $500, which she leaves for Harvey as a warning not to pull this scam again. Just to be sure, Thelma takes out her gun and shoots Harvey's computer, making sure he can't undo the transfer. Then, with one last act of defiance, she grabs Harvey's cigarette and tosses it into a nearby trash can before walking away. Moments later, behind her, a gas tank inside the store ignites, triggering an explosion. Without even looking back, Thelma keeps walking, giving off an effortless badass vibe. Danny arrives just as the dust settles, breathless from rushing over. He finds Thelma and Ben outside, unharmed. The relief is overwhelming. Danny pulls Thelma into a hug, and soon, they are joined by Gail and Alan, who have also arrived. For the first time in a long while, the family is whole again. Later, they all gather to watch Ben's long-awaited show, enjoying the moment together, grateful for the adventure that brought them even closer. After everything settles, Danny takes Thelma to visit Teddy's grave. She gently places a bouquet of flowers on the headstone, standing quietly for a moment. As they sit together, Thelma turns to Danny with a soft smile and tells him that she knows he will be okay when she's gone. Danny, touched by her words, squeezes her hand, understanding the deeper meaning behind them. As the credits roll, a heartwarming clip appears, showing the real Thelma, grandmother of the film's director, Josh Margolin, standing among the trees. She looks up in awe and says, "What spirit," mirroring a moment from the film. The scene fades to black, ending with the words, "For Thelma." The film is also dedicated to Richard Roundtree, honoring his memory and legacy. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.